All right, everybody, welcome in to Sports Talk for You. I am your host, Aaron Bell. I am here with my co-host, Adam Parker, and we welcome back Armand Ely, who has been on absence due to his wife's passing. So, Armand, it's good to have you back.
Yes.
Good to be back.
All right, we have a very special show today due to some very special news out of Dallas yesterday. All of you have probably heard already about, well, let's just call him the fraud, Dak Prescott, who thinks he's worth $45 million, turned down a $175 million contract for 4 years, and he was wanting over $45 million in his last year of his contract. Once again, he thinks he's a Patrick Mahomes. He thinks he's a Tom Brady. Adam, let's get your feelings because we know how you like Dak Prescott.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of his, to say the least. I think for him to succeed, there has to be special circumstances. He has to have the running back. He has to have the wide receivers. I remember an article reading about how Cooper helps with the video scouting before each game and tells him how he's going to attack. Also, too, he was a top 13 QB in 2018. And then just this past year ended up finishing in the top 6. And if you put that in perspective, I won't say first 7 games because it all spread out. But when you're playing the Giants twice, no offense to your Skins, Armand, but they were not that great last year. You're playing the Jets, you're playing the Dolphins, and you're playing a bad Bears team. I mean, there's 16 games in a season, and already about half of them you're playing against the bottom feeders of the NFL. So it's no big surprise in my mind that he was able to be a top 10, top 6 quarterback last year. It amazes me how he says in interviews it's not about the money. Yet they've offered him how many? I mean, you had the exclusive tag. You've had one for about, I believe it was $33 million a year with another contract, and now you add this one on top. It's not necessarily, do I think he's worth the money? No, but just the bottom line is this whole drama just dragging out is absolutely ridiculous.
But hey, a lot of
That's
people are
all
going to
I
say
got.
he had the most passing yards, or he came close to it last year, and his rating was great. But let's just get to the garbage yards. I mean, how many games were they down by 20 points in the fourth quarter? I mean,
Right,
they were
exactly.
down by 20 to the Jets in the fourth quarter, and most of his 400 yards came in that fourth quarter alone.
Yeah, and it also goes back to Josh Rosen was out playing them. I mean, the Cowboys ended up winning that game, but that was one of the worst games I've ever seen Dallas play.
Or
And
weren't
then,
they down like 10-6 to start the second quarter to the dang Dolphins?
yeah, I mean,
Come
the
on.
halftime score, wasn't it like 17-13?
Yeah,
I mean, it was just pitiful.
and
But
that's
also,
after the
too, I mean,
Dolphins just got marched over by New England, and I think Baltimore was the second team.
right. But you also have to think, too, I mean, Mitchell Trubisky outdid him when they were
Yeah,
playing the Bears. And not to mention, it's interesting because Colin Cowherd was getting a lot of flack because he's like, I take Josh Allen over Dak. And everyone's like, why would you do
well,
that?
I would
Well,
in a
this,
heartbeat.
I hear you, but it's like, why wouldn't you? Because that guy spanked the Cowboys and Dak Prescott on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
I mean, you could say what you will about the stats. I think they were a little inflated just because of how the schedule worked and all the bottom feeders.
Well,
But also, too, you tend to inflate your stats when you're coming from behind a lot of those games.
there's a guy that tweeted yesterday saying Dwayne Haskins will be better than Dak Prescott, and I'm not going to lie, I wanted to retweet that so bad because, in my opinion, I believe Haskins can be better than Prescott, and I believe he can run that AFC East.
Yeah,
People
and you
said
know
how bad
what?
he was, but he didn't play his rookie year. Or I guess he didn't start till what, week 13, week
Yeah,
12,
something
something
like
like that.
that.
I think
But
he'll be a good quarterback. It takes time in the NFL. I mean,
right, it does, and Dak fell into a perfect situation. When he got drafted coming in, we had the best O-line in the NFL. Not very many rookie quarterbacks who come into the league can say that at all. Um, we were able to get a weapon for him in Cooper, whereas before he had Dez Bryant, didn't utilize him well. Dez ended up either retiring or going to a different team. I believe he retired. And then you had Terrence Williams, and you got to ask yourself, well, who created Terrence Williams? Well, it turns out Romo created Terrence Williams because Dak couldn't throw him the ball very well, or else he'd still be a Cowboy. And then you had Cole Beasley. Yes, they were successful for one season together, but that second season, I don't know if it was a fight that they got into, just kind of like an argumentative thing, but it's funny how it was his number one receiver in 2018 or in 2017. 2018 rolls around and Cole Beasley's nowhere to be found, but then leaves for Buffalo and has a great season. So he does
and he had
not
a great
create
game against Dallas
receivers.
Thanksgiving Day.
Yeah, no,
Caught
exactly.
6 or 7 passes that day, and he had a touchdown.
Exactly. Yep. I mean, but it just goes to show you he makes nobody better. He
No,
truly, truly
but mark my
doesn't.
word, to this day, I still think Andy Dalton will be started week 1.
Yeah, I mean, it's a
How how
possibility.
many backups get paid $7 million? I mean,
No,
Marcus
I mean,
Mariota.
well, yeah, Mariota,
yeah.
that's true.
There's some backups in pay, but the thing about it is, I think Andy Dalton at some point of the season will probably be starting, whether it's injury and or ineffectiveness. I don't think it's going to be, week 1. But as far as Dak won his money. I'm all for him to get this money, but is he worth it? I have to agree with you guys. He's not. But the Cowboys are going to be in a box where they're going to have to pay him market value. And when you look at his stats, even though they're being inflated with his with receivers yards after catch, he is one of the statistically one of the top quarterbacks, top 10 quarterbacks in the league. And with that said, he's probably going to have to get paid, the market value, whether he's worth it or not. There's a lot of players in the National Football League who are making lots of cash money who probably not worth it whatsoever.
Here's my thing. If Dallas decides to trade, what team out there would trade for Dak Prescott?
I
mean,
I would say Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh would be a great spot for him.
I think Pittsburgh is going to stick with Rudolph or Hodges. I mean, Mike Tomlin has said good things about Rudolph.
But if you have a choice between Prescott and Rudolph and Mason, I will go with Dak because he's a proven entity. Rudolph and Mason haven't proven that much at all.
Yeah.
Right. No, I hear you. I think Pittsburgh would be a great spot for him. I thought the Dolphins would be a good one, but they got Tua in the draft, which is rightfully so. Next one would be the Patriots, but I think the Patriots want to look at Stidham. And if that ends up blowing up, I mean, you got Trevor Lawrence waiting in the wings in next year's draft, So, I mean, those would be the two spots I would see Dak being traded to would be Pittsburgh and New England. But honestly,
I got another spot.
Where?
How about New Orleans?
Oh yeah,
Washington Saints. Drew Brees is getting up there.
But Winston, though, it's New Orleans signed Winston.
Yeah, Winston sucks.
He's going to do a 30 for 30, man.
Exactly. I mean, Winston to me is a guy. I mean, I think he's got the talent. He just needs someone to help him out and don't throw this pass, don't throw that pass because of the 30 interceptions. But he did lead the league in TDs thrown and
you got to realize
yards.
It's not Madden. You can't throw a ball and expect it not to get intercepted.
That is true. Yes.
Madden, you can get away with that, but NFL real life, those guys are going to pick those balls off 9 times out of 10.
Right. So it's just interesting,
Here's my thing though about Prescott. I think he's wanting to become a $200 million quarterback before Patrick Mahomes signs his contract during the summer. I think that's Prescott. He wants to be that first quarterback to make $200 million before Patrick Mahomes gets his contract.
If that happens, that's going to drive up Mahomes' price really up there.
Yeah.
So I think Patrick Mahomes will want that himself. So if Dak get $200 million, how much do you think Mahomes is going to get? Because I think Mahomes is a $50 million quarterback, to be honest with you.
Now, here's my thing. Has there ever been a year where 3 quarterbacks have came out with $200 million contracts? Because look, could Lamar Jackson or Deshaun Watson get a $200 million contract?
Probably
no,
Lamar
that's never
Jackson.
happened.
Deshaun Watson, I don't know. I can see Lamar Jackson doing it because Lamar Jackson has a little more success than Deshaun Watson. Watson, Lamar Jackson's an MVP, even though it should have been Mahomes, but he is an MVP.
The thing is, Deshaun Watson's gotten beat up in his first couple of years in the NFL. He's not had an offensive line. I mean, when you're to the point where you can't fly with the team because your lungs and your liver, because you've gotten beat up so much, I mean, that guy's going to have a short career if he keeps getting sacked like he does.
Yeah.
But, yes, I agree.
You know what? I believe Mahomes is worth every penny, and I'm with you. He's a $50 million QB, but I honestly think he might be the guy to take a hometown discount per se. I think it would just be a smidge south of 40. Don't take me wrong. I mean, if he takes his 50 or somewhere close to it, it wouldn't shock me. But honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if Mahomes were to take some sort of a quote-unquote discount. I think Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league. I think it's funny that people were trying to compare Dak with Russell Wilson. There's no comparison there. I mean, you're talking one guy with an absolute trash of an O-line, not to mention 2 Super Bowl appearances and winning one. Whereas this guy, 8-8 with the number 1 QBR ranking.
Well, let's not forget he would have had 2 Super Bowls if Pete Carroll would have ran the ball with Marshawn Lynch instead of throwing the ball on the 1-yard line.
Absolutely.
Oh, exactly.
Technically, Russell Wilson could have 2 rings right now.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Not for his head coach. I mean, yes, he made the pass, but I mean, I don't know.
Can I just make one more point? When Romo got injured, with all these assets, the number 1 O-line and all that jazz, did anyone actually think Dak would actually come in and be what he was then? Because I didn't. But I think, too, the reason why the Cowboys would be hesitant in giving his demands is I wonder if they feel like, hey, we have the receivers, we have the running back, we have a defense. I think anybody could flourish behind that O-line. I'm not saying
but would Dak Prescott have had would Dak have had a good rookie year without Tony Romo on that sideline?
Yeah, no, I don't think he would.
No.
Because his stats prove it. I mean, that first year that he was there, he threw for 4 interceptions. When Romo left, he has doubled to triple his INTs. So, and not only that, but he's been averaging about 23 TDs a season, whereas this year he was able to get 30. But when you're playing half your season against bad teams, I mean, I'm like, no wonder he's close to 30.
Well, he played 6 games in the NFC East. I mean, that's easy enough right there. I mean, the Eagles won the division at what, 9-7?
Yeah.
So, and I agree. And Adam, we've talked about this before. The year that Dak Prescott came in for an injury to Romo, Tony Romo doesn't get hurt. I think the Cowboys won the Super Bowl that year. And I firmly believe, I'm saying that as a Redskins fan, Dallas wins the Super Bowl that year if Romo does not get hurt.
Well, was that the same year that Romo came in the fourth quarter for that one drive and drove down the field in, what was it, minute and 20 seconds?
That was Ezekiel Elliott's rookie year. Romo had started the last game of the year against Philadelphia for one series.
Yeah.
And then Romo came in, and Romo took him down, led him to an easy touchdown. But with Romo and Ezekiel Elliott, they won a Super Bowl that year.
Yeah.
Oh, most definitely. I agree with that. And not in also too, if we're gonna, throw in possibilities as well. I wholeheartedly believe that had Alex Smith not been injured that year, the Redskins would have gone to the playoffs 2 years ago.
Oh well, yeah, because they were
Oh, absolutely.
3 games up when Alex Smith got hurt.
Mhm.
They
With
had that
what,
division
about
locked
five
in.
games left?
Yeah, they
Wasn't
had
it
that
like five
division
or
locked
six
in.
It,
left?
it was the week before Thanksgiving. We were I
Mhm.
think 5-3 that year, 2 games up. And the thing about it is, if we go to the playoffs, we still have Jake Gruden, which is another first subject. But yeah, you're right. The Redskins probably finished 10-6 in that division. Make the playoffs. Hopefully, can win a game in the playoffs.
Mhm.
But you're right.
Yeah, and I just feel like Dak's not worth it. I mean, I understand, good quarterbacks need to get paid. I understand all that, but honestly, I don't think he's worth the money he's asking. If he was around like what Goff is asking or Wentz, then yeah, sure.
And that's the
But
thing right there is Wentz. Wentz got his money, so Prescott wants his. And
mhm.
my feelings on Wentz, I don't think Wentz is that great.
Right. Well, after he got injured, I mean, he hasn't been the same, you know.
No.
And then it doesn't help last year. I mean, his wide receivers kept getting injured,
I
you
mean,
know.
it's like RG3. Look how good he was his first 2 years, and then that knee injury came, and he just never was the same. And now he's a
Yeah,
backup.
don't remind
Yep.
me about that, please. Just though that was a fabulous rookie season, and all of a sudden, Mike Shanahan, well, let's leave him out there and let him tear his ACL. The
Yep.
Seahawks. Jesus.
The 1 year Redskins fans get hope with
Yeah,
Roger and
exactly.
Alex Smith. Injuries come and bombard it all.
And Haskins, please don't get hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. Just to wrap this conversation up, I honestly, if there's not a deal done by July, or even before that, I honestly see Dak holding out, and I see the Riflemen taking over.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion.
I think he'll be
Um,
like Ezekiel Elliott. He'll see the competition and then he'll take a contract 1 week before the season starts so he can play week one. Just like Elliott did. Because Elliott knew Tony Pollard was going to be his competition. And if he didn't sign a contract, who knows what Pollard could have showed, you know?
yeah,
Remember, Cowboy fans, Emmitt Smith did hold out for 2 weeks after they won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
yeah. And not only that, though, like the difference, okay, say Dak does hold out, and kind of wants to do what Zeke did. The difference, though, is he has a new coach. It's not like, when Zeke did it, it's been he was in the system already for 2 years. This would have been his third, so he already knew the system. So it was like, well, do I really need to play preseason? Not really. But now that we have a new coach, it's like I don't want him holding out, but at the same time, if he does, I think he just ends up screwing himself.
Yeah. All right, let's get
So
to some sad news in the NBA today. The passing of Jerry Sloan, famous NBA head coach of the Utah Jazz for years. I think it was 23 years, I believe. And of course, that historical 1997-98 team that probably would have won the championship if not for the Last Dance, Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman team. I mean, both of those teams were great. And I was only, I think, 8 years old at the time, but I do remember watching all those playoff games. And man, Karl Malone, John Stockton going up against Michael Jordan and Steve Kerr. But it's just a sad day in the NBA. What's your greatest memories about Jerry Sloan? I mean, all the years of head coaching, who do you think was his best team? Was it that 98 team?
yeah, I mean, you could even say it went all the way down to 94, 95-ish when Michael Jordan retired. But the problem was he ran into the Houston Rockets, who were just stacked, you know. But the thing about Jerry Sloan was he was a very consistent coach. and kept everything in. I mean, from just my observations, kept everything simple, and I just
Well,
think that he was a good coach down there in Utah, and it's sad that he never won a ring. He was a coach who was deserving of winning one. But when you go up against the dream with a stacked Houston team, and of course the greatest player ever to play in the NBA, sorry, it's not LeBron James, it's Michael Jordan, then your chances, are very slim. So,
not
but
only that, Jerry Sloan was also a pretty dang good basketball player in his own right. He spent 14 years, or not 14, yeah, 10 seasons, 10 seasons in the NBA, averaged 14 points. For the Bulls, he started off with the Bulls. He was one of the original Chicago Bulls. He was a dang good player. And I think a lot of people forget about how good and a hard-nosed player Jerry Sloan was before he became a coach. And his Utah teams, yeah, you're right. You ran into the Bulls. If Michael Jordan stayed with baseball as he was going to, I think Utah wins a couple of championships. But when you run into Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman, that's a hard feat. And Jerry Sloan is probably one most underrated NBA coaches of all time. You just take a look at his record: over 1,200 wins, in his career. That's pretty dang good.
Yeah. Here's my thing. Do you guys think he would still be? Do you think he still would have been coaching if it wasn't for Parkinson's?
Oh,
No,
I think he
I
would
don't
have.
think so.
You don't think? I think he would a couple more seasons, but I don't think he would have lasted very long.
He retired when he was 68 years old, so it
Yeah.
would have been tough. Maybe another 2 years after that, after the 2010-2011 season. By the time he was 68 years old, I think he probably had maybe 1 or 2 more years after that, but that's about it.
Yeah.
He's had a lot of great memories with Utah Jazz, and we give our condolences to him and his family. 78 years old, he lived a great long life, and today he is laid to rest. So that's going to do it for our show today. Thanks again for joining in, enjoying the Dak Prescott, the fraud, turning down $175 million for 4 years. What quarterback would do that? I have no idea. But we will be on again next week. Armand, it was good to have you back, buddy. We missed
Yes.
you. So
Yes,
for you
man.
to get a break and talk about some sports. So see you guys next time.